Hello, everyone. My name is Andreas Diaz. Today, Will and I are back again for another spectacular Marvel Plus talk. And of course, a spoil cast of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So, so this is our Phase 5 project. Finally, our first project in the Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is good because, well, it's been long waited. So, Will, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Man, I'm so excited because I think what was it last week? Last or the last, Sunday we were eating our lunch, right? And then you
Hmm.
briefly told me about your opinions. Like you saw Friend M3.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course, I was going to see it the day of after our hangout. So Monday, I saw it in President's Day with my friend Chris, who's our DC Plus Talk host as well. And we saw it, and so we're here. This is our first Phase 5 project. Uh, I'm very excited to talk about this movie. A lot of opinions. I
Hmm.
you know, but yeah. So let's let's kind of get it over with. What was your overall opinion on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? What like what do you like about it? And then what was the worst thing about it? Go ahead.
Yeah. I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, I liked it a lot more than some of the other recent films.
Mm, yeah.
Um, yeah. I don't know. I especially loved Jonathan Majors' performance as Kang. I think that was my highlight, I would say.
Yes, that's true.
Um, and then for like the something I didn't like about it was just the CGI was. It's not that it was like bad; it was just kind of bland. There were parts that were also bad, um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh my god.
I don't know. Maybe you'll want to talk about it more later. But it just everything seemed like it had a very dull color palette, even though like the quantum realm is supposed to be this like big like mysterious like otherworldly place, and it was just kind of gray and brown.
Yeah.
um
I it's funny you say that because it it's actually the best. This is probably my favorite sci-fi world that did. The thing that was the issue for me initially is because our characters, the main heroes,
mhm,
have the color palette of yellow, black, purple, yellow, red, red and black, and
mhm.
then you have the color palette of the quantum realm having the oranges, the purples, and it just completely destroys your like vision. Like I don't know what you call it, your eye vision, basically, of like what the heck is going on here. It's like
Yeah,
it
nothing
just
stands out. It all just kind of blurs
yeah,
together. Yeah.
yeah, and that's my issue with that. Where I don't think it's the presentation is bad. It's just I don't know who thought about just like I wish Cassie costume was different, but we'll get into more of that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah. But anything else? I mean, besides the special effects,
That I liked or that I didn't like.
you didn't like. I'm sorry.
Uh, yeah, there were some writing things that were kind of annoying. Like I don't understand why Janet wouldn't have mentioned Kang to anyone. Um,
Yes.
that feels like a major oversight. Um,
Uh,
uh, yeah, it felt very like convenient for the plot, but it didn't actually make sense like character wise.
mhm,
Um, yeah, there were some jokes that like none of the jokes were like
mhm.
bad like there have been in other Marvel movies. But there were definitely some where I was like, I'm gonna like this is funny the first time I'm watching it, but the second time I watch this movie, I'm gonna be like, why did they feel the need to include this? And those
Yeah.
were mostly around Modoc.
Mm, yeah. Oh yeah. I know.
Yeah.
It was also just the humor of our characters, like Cassie's humor. Well, my the humor was also the beginning and the end of Earth, like when we're in Earth, San Francisco. Like those I
Yeah,
did not like, but
yeah.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Those felt more like consistent with the
with
first two Ant-Man movies.
yeah, I I guess so.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know.
we'll get into that because I I think that's the like the big positive, and then it's also the negative. But we'll get into that. But yeah. And anything else? I think go now.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so what's it? It was the week before. Uh, when I had finally, it was like 2 weeks before it premiered on Friday, and then before I saw it, it was very intriguing that the reviewers were comparing this series of this movie to Star Wars and whatever sci-fi. Like it was very sci-fi, and I thought, oh, okay, it was good. Like it wasn't negative. Like they didn't specifically say something until the embargo lifted. Then I got a much clearer image what they were saying
Hmm.
about this movie. I gotta say, I actually in kind of the same line with you, Will. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's my favorite Ant-Man movie. Um, I will probably just rank it like okay, Ant-Man 2, the first Ant-Man movie, and then this will be my top favorite. And I have my issues with this movie with terms of story. I don't think it's not the strongest Ant-Man story compared to the first two. But it's definitely I appreciate the ambitious they went with this movie. Um, I think um this movie like in terms of third MCU films, I think this is the weakest they ever did because their third movies in their trilogies are like the best. They're like the strongest compared to their second films. Like Captain America:
Hmm.
Civil War is great. That changed completely what the MCU is, and Thor Ragnarok completely reinvents, but also changes Thor and
Hmm.
the whole universe. Right? Iron Man 3. I mean, this has similar to Iron Man 3, but different difference is that we got two beginner phases being very highly controversial because of what they did with these
Hmm.
characters or movie. Of course, Iron Man 3 is a much stronger movie than this movie. But I appreciate Iron Man 3 because it did like help with Iron Man, Tony Stark's arc to the next phase until he died, which I
Hmm.
appreciate now. And then here, this movie, like you have Kang, and this movie is like the most safest movie ever. Like no high stakes, which
Hmm.
they think they have, and it annoys me that they pull back, and that's where I think a lot of people have their quibbles with this movie. It's like
Hmm.
you're making a big deal of this movie, and then you don't have these very intense high stakes. This is a spoiler cast. If you haven't seen this movie, just turn off this podcast, see it, and then hear this podcast. So towards the end of the movie, I liked the idea that Scott and Holt was going to be stuck in the quantum realm, and I liked that because then it's sort of similar, similar but also different. Like, oh my God, Scott is yet again stuck in the quantum realm, just like what happened to him in Ant Man and the Wasp because of
Hmm.
the blip. And but this is but instead he has a person with him now with Hope, and in the beginning we saw how Hope is helping out the world, like doing what we call it, house projecting or something like that, and
Yeah, she's helping with like housing and
yeah, housing
other
and
stuff with the Pym particles.
yeah, with the pin particles, right? And I was like, oh, and because throughout the movie, Cassie always they were hitting home how Scott is just not doing nothing. He's just like gushing over his fame and as Ant Man and what he did with the Endgame events, And I was like, okay. And then here, he can actually do a practical thing towards the end of this movie that he can help rebuild a civilization in the quantum realm again. and with Hope, and I think that's good. But then they chicken out like in a few minutes, where Cassie just boop, 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 like open the portal and it's like, oh no, they're fine. They're going back to San Francisco and their Earth. I was like,
Hmm.
wow. And I will discuss that because apparently that was like a reshoot. This movie had
Okay.
last minute reshoots, and it happened 7 weeks ago. Can you believe that?
Really?
Yes, 7 weeks ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was listening to another podcast, and someone who they had their sources, but someone actually lived the area that they actually shot where Scott was walking in the town of San Francisco, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Doing the monologue and all that. Like she mentioned, they shot it and there was another reshoot before the movie would ever open. So yeah, so we'll get into that. So um, I feel like it was like I think this movie had like a different ending, and I don't like the ending they did here. So that's my thing.
Yeah, it
Uh,
did feel kind of weird, but at the same time, like, are you saying that it was gonna end with Scott and Hope like stuck in the quantum realm?
right now, yes, I'm saying I think like it's I need to rewatch that video, but like it sounded like that was the ending they were supposed to leave out. But then it seemed like last minute they added this other ending where Scott has this like, oh, is Kane alive? Like he's having this like thought, like kind of like what Iron Man did towards the end
Hmm.
of the Avengers, like or like in Iron Man 3, like maybe there's like a bigger threat, and like he's trying to build all this army of Iron Man suits. Like that was
Right.
sort of they were trying to do, but I just didn't think it worked because it just played too much comedic um pace. So
Hmm.
I get what they're trying to do. It was like, oh, Scott is thinking what's the repercussions of what he faced in the quantum realm, but then it just I don't know, like that whole ending was just too jokey and just took out some of the like I think like dramatic um gravitas that the movie was trying to do,
Yeah.
and you know and this is not I'm happy that we got Kane. I Let me say this. I think Kane is the best MCU villain we have. I think he's the best we have so far,
Apparently. Yeah.
apparently. But I mean, especially for Jonathan Majors, I think Jonathan Majors saved this movie. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, I feel like Jonathan Majors and like the whole Kane part here just feels out of place. I feel like it's a different movie from the one we're seeing because it just doesn't match with the stuff with the Ant-Man stuff we're used to, like especially the last two
Yeah.
films.
Yeah. It did definitely feel very different from the first two.
Yeah.
Um, like tonally, stylistically. But I don't know. One of the things that I liked about this movie is they still managed to like bring in plot elements from the first two movies and make it
Hmm.
and like connect it to the story of this one in a way that felt very natural. So I actually
Right.
really liked those little connective tissues.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so I
It,
don't know. It is very different, but I also really appreciated that they didn't make it feel too like I don't. It still felt at home in the trilogy, even if it was
yeah.
very different to me, at least.
Yeah. No. I agree with you. Like that was the thing I like about this movie. It kept the consistency from the last two movies. Um,
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
hate the first two movies. Like I like the first one more than the second film, but
yeah,
I
and I like the second one more than the first one. But
yeah, exactly. And I mean and I think it's just like I think it's because Scott and like let's get into Scott. I think one of the things that's helped this trilogy is just Paul Rudd. I think
yeah,
Edgar Wright, God bless him. I think he did such a great casting on this movie when before he left, of course.
yeah,
I Paul Rudd is Ant Man, and I think this movie could not work. Despite we all like I appreciate like we're praising Jonathan Majors, but I feel like people are overlooking Paul Rudd. Like Paul Rudd is like the reason you care about this franchise and this character.
Yeah,
You know,
everyone loves Paul Rudd.
yeah, and he doesn't age. He's like,
Yeah.
and I mean, come on, like you have to get like props to him to be this oh my god, this very goofy man who's in this bigger world, like universe, like just doing this press tour and with the book and of course the guy from what was that show we saw?
I think
Was
you
it
should leave.
Yeah, Sure Leave, like when he
Yeah.
just mistakenly told Ant-Man or Scott,
Calls him
oh
Spider-Man.
thank you, Spider, and then
Yeah.
towards the end he's like, oh, you have to pay your coffee now, Bugman, for
So
$12.
good.
Yes. Oh my god, I just love that, and just Paul Rudd's reaction and just the way he handles the situation is so funny, and I just, oh my god, Paul Rudd is this incredible person, great actor. I just I'm hoping he will continue very strong in his career, and yeah, I think he's the second best thing about this movie after Jonathan Majors. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I think and I I think they did a very good job of being like, because we have an issue with the MCU when they struggle to be consistent with our heroes in terms of their development. And
Hmm.
I am very impressed that out of all the characters, Ant-Man is the one that he's been the most consistent. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm very happy that this third film like continuing that, like it makes sense. Um, where I think this is where I think one of my problems with this movie, and in general, is just the other characters surrounds Scott Land. I'm sorry, Scott Land is an issue for me, but we'll get into that more. Um, well, except one, which I really was so happy that she got more to do, but whatever. But what's your opinion on Paul Rudd? What was the other like? What was the other aspects that was kind of neat? What they did with Scott? Did you like the direction they went with him during this third film? Just kind of curious.
Yeah,
Um,
I liked having his dynamic with Cassie.
yes,
And just like showing him being like a father more than just like a few scenes, but have it be like part of his like character arc to like
hmm,
accept that she's grown up and to like teach her things. And
yeah,
yeah, no, I really liked their relationship in this movie. And I've
yeah,
liked their relationship in all of the
mm,
Ant-Man movies.
yeah, yeah. No, no. It's the heart of the films.
Yeah.
Really, I mean the incredible scene where we have all the like multiple Ant-Mans and like
Oh,
them.
that I loved that. I have something I want to say about that, but I'll let you make your point first.
Yeah, yeah. I that was where I actually started to like the movie more
Hmm.
because and they did not forget about why Scott is doing these things and like why
Hmm.
he wants to be a better man. It's because he wants to, you know, be a good father to Cassie and like keep Cassie safe and all the things what a father should do. And I think that's one of the things I love about Ant-Man here. And that scene alone really encapsulate who Ant-Man is as Scott Land. And I really appreciate what they did there. And just that scene alone, so funny. But like that was the scene that's the movie I wanted to see.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it was action, but it was also telling a story at the same time. And that was so like the strongest aspect of this movie, where the
Hmm.
other things just didn't work. But here it did because just what was going on. I just love it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. It seems like you like this scene.
Yeah. No, I mean, I loved it for all of the reasons you just said, but then there was also the visual at the end where he's like
Mm,
all the Scots are working together and he's
yeah.
climbing up, and it's like
Yeah.
a perfect parallel of how ants will like create a little bridge for themselves. And it's
Yes.
like Ant-Man became the ant. And he was like his own horde of ants, and they didn't comment on it at all, which I really appreciated. They just kind of let that moment happen and like
Yes.
have that visual parallel, but they didn't feel the need to like kind of like treat the audience like it was stupid and be like, "Hey, did you notice that we did the thing where he looked like an ant?" Um,
Yes.
I loved it.
Yes, I know. That's very true. And uh, my mind, I don't know you see this movie when you're a kid, but it reminded me of Ants, the movie from DreamWorks.
The Woody Allen movie.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, Woody Allen, horrible person.
Yeah,
You know,
horrible person. But yeah,
but I like the
yeah,
movie.
I did see that movie when I was a kid.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
reminded me of towards the end where like the ants colony had to build like a bridge to just get
Hmm.
out of what was going on because the whole like their whole home was getting flooded, and this like reminded me of that. It was so cool that they
Hmm.
actually did something like an actual ant thing,
Yeah.
but they didn't comment that as you mentioned before. Will, but yeah, oh my god, just and I just left the gag where we actually see the was it Rob the Baxon the Robin Baxon uniform for Scott, which I never expected.
Hmm.
So that was cool.
Baskin Robbins. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah, so funny they brought that back, and it was
Yeah.
still funny. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so yeah, I think Scott was consistent, and I think it just was great. And before this movie, I heard there was reports of a fourth Ant-Man movie, and I hope they do because I'm not against having more movies. Just make the next one good. And I will say I will watch this movie over Thor and Love and Thunder. I think this franchise is not damaged. I think there's I think one more thing you can do with Ant-Man here. So, but
Yeah. I
um
yeah. I liked this movie a lot more than Thor: Love and Thunder.
yeah.
Um, I really don't understand. Like I hadn't looked at any reviews before I saw the movie, and then I
Hmm.
came out and I was talking with my friend Alex about the movie afterwards, and we are like,
Mm,
oh, like that was so great. Like I wonder what everyone else thought. And then we went online, and just everyone was just like clowning on it. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It was so much better than like Thor 4 or Black Widow,
Mm,
or I liked it more than Eternals. Like
yes.
there's so many movies that have come out recently that I've like really not liked, and then this one was like it wasn't like the best, but it was pretty good. So I'm really
Yeah.
confused by the like overwhelmingly negative reaction to it.
I I think it was because I think it was just expectations and word of mouth that Marvel Studios did. I think it was Disney's fault because they were making such a big deal of this thing being the first phase of Phase 5,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah,
I feel
they're trying to build Kang up.
yeah, and I feel like I you know I think if Phase 4 was consistently strong than just mix, I think we didn't have like if this was the first Ryan thing, I was like, it's okay. It's not a big deal. But because Eternals was the first one before this movie, and then many people have like last year, I mean, half of the second half of Phase 4 was so divided and
Hmm.
just, like even it Black Panther has that unfortunate problem as well.
Yeah, I really liked the Black Panther too.
Yeah, yeah, I liked
Yeah,
it too. And I think that's just the unfortunate thing that I think people were kind of exhausted after Phase 4,
yeah, which
and
I get. I do get
mhm,
that. I don't understand why this is the movie where that's like manifesting itself and it wasn't Thor. Like it was Thor a little bit. It's still like critics
yeah,
seem to prefer that to this one for some reason, and I don't understand why.
I I think it's just oh my god, I definitely disagree with the critics here. I I think they're both. I think this and Thor, the Love and Thunder are the same, but different reasons. But they're consistent because I gotta say, if um people like I do agree, I do miss Louise. I wasn't
Yeah.
happy with and I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with Love and Thunder how they treated Sif, and and then also they didn't they didn't develop the characters you like Hope and Valkyrie were completely like sidelined in
Hmm.
these films specifically. Um, and then it's just also the story. Like, it felt like really focused on this one aspect they care more about, and then the other they did not. So in this case, the Kane story felt more like that was the story they wanted to tell. Where, like, as we discussed, I think the Ant-Man stuff is consistent, but there was things that I did not like what they did. Like, of course, I appreciate the Cassie and Lane relationship, but I did not like where we took Cassie as a character. Like, I didn't like that we made her a scientist. I
Mhm.
and the stuff they were trying to do with her character, I appreciate, but they just didn't spend not enough time with it. So, uh,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
can see that.
yeah, and then and just the endings, like, I think Thor has a better ending. Where here you really feel like the ending is very reshot, and like it just
Hmm.
like we had like a fake out ending. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I
I get that.
yeah, like it
I
didn't
don't
feel
know.
like like I felt like Doctor Strange had a complete ending. Uh, The matter what you think about Love of Thunder, it actually had an ending. Wakanda Forever has an ending. Like, even Eternals had an ending. This just felt like it was like we had two endings. It's like, okay, we'll get into the ending, but like that annoyed me. But um, yeah, and then just the humor. Like, I was actually fine with the humor in this movie, but um,
I was for the most part, and like I said,
yeah,
like I didn't have any problems with it, like as like a
yeah,
first viewing. But
yeah,
oh
um,
man, like
yeah,
just some of the jokes were like they were funny one time, but I could tell that like on rewatches, like the drawn out Modoc death was like it was funny, but I don't want to
yeah,
watch that again. It's just like it
yeah,
lasted too long.
yeah.
And like
Oh
the
my god.
concept was funny, but like I don't
Hmm.
know. Um, I just wish they hadn't made him such a joke.
Yeah, I
It felt like a step backward for Marvel. Like I thought making um, Yellow Jacket Modoc was like a really great way of incorporating that part of the first movie,
yeah,
and we
yeah,
see his like body kind of like getting contorted like that as he's like being shrunk at the end of the first one.
yeah.
But like I don't know, Marvel had started to like move away from that like thing of the early like 2000s where like comic book movies had to be like self-aware and kind of like
Hmm.
self-deprecating whenever they did
Yes.
something really comic booky, and it felt like a return to that instead of just being like no he's like yeah he looks goofy, we can make like a joke about it, but then he's still going to be like an actual character and not just like the butt of
Hmm.
the joke every time.
Yeah. Wasn't really surprised about that. I knew they were going to do that.
Yeah,
I
I wasn't surprised, I was just disappointed.
Yeah, yeah. I, I think I was just. I think I was kind of numb, and I think Mordock, like, uh, Mordock, or slash, Darren Cross. I feel like he was the character that felt out of places of this movie.
Hmm.
I If you made a third M movie, I think Mordock could have been the best main villain for a third M movie.
Hmm.
But I feel like when they were thinking of making Kane be their next Thanos big bad for these next phases, they needed a movie to kind of like show you this character. And so they
Hmm.
chose Ant-Man out of all the movies, which I don't get, but we'll yeah, well, we'll see. Um, and they were like, "Oh, okay, well, let's put Kane in Ant-Man 3." And then it is like, "Oh, ooh, I don't know if Mordock was in the early stages of Ant-Man 3, or like it was like, okay, if we're not gonna get a fourth Ant-Man movie, which we don't know now, that depends on how well this movie performs in the box office.
Hmm.
This is just the only way we can do it. And and Marvel just doesn't think too clear with their villains when they will like return, which they will do. I mean, it's not the last time. I mean, to see more die, it's gonna be just a while to see this character again. So, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, so that was my problem. So the jokes were fine, but it was just like I think they could have been cool if they did because like Kane reminded me so much of Darth Vader, and then
Hmm.
Mordok reminded me of just the was it the Emperor's ambrals or generals that
Yeah,
Darth
yeah.
Vader had to put up in Empire Strikes Back and the Return of Jedi. So I just felt like that was his purpose.
Hmm.
But yeah, I I just wish we kept Murdoch somewhere where we could because I really wish we introduced AIM again and like he was the perfect character to do that and I
Hmm.
just I don't know. So but yeah, and it was just and let's kind of get into this. Like I mean, his character design was pitch perfect. I didn't mind the cover face. People were like because he was like the first one we got in terms of content and leaks from this movie, and I thought in the movie it made sense, but the CGI face of like Darren Cross and all that was just not good, really.
Hmm.
I just felt like I think it should have been more like in the comics, more grotesque, and like you didn't see the actor's face, you know,
Hmm.
because then I can believe this is actually a character, and then the jokes makes more sense. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm kind of indifferent. I feel like he feels like more different. Like he feels like a more different character from a movie that's this ambitious and very serious. That's the thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. So my thing. But yeah. But I hope he didn't. I hope the character didn't die in this movie. I hope we get another version. That's another thing. Like there's multiple versions of Mordok, so this is not going to be our first and only one. Like we're gonna get hopefully another one day. But
Hmm.
getting to um the new characters like Cassie. Let's get into her. Of course Cassie Lane became a teenager because we did the time jump. This of course was recast. This is Kathryn Newton. Did you seen anything from her? Because my first movie from her was Freaky. I thought she was great, and so I was kind of curious where which they were going to do with her. And what was your first movie to see this actress?
Uh, she was in Detective Pikachu. That's
Oh yes,
that's the only thing I've seen her in.
oh yes, I forgot about that. That is so funny.
Mhm.
I can't believe they got Psyduck right in that movie. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my
no, that
god.
movie was a lot better than I was expecting it to be.
Oh, that's good. I saw bits of it in TV. I'm curious to see it full time. But anyway,
Hmm.
yeah. So as we mentioned before, the Cassie and Scott's father daughter relationship is such an important thing in the trilogy. Well, in the franchise in general,
Hmm.
and I gotta say, I didn't know why they recast her. I feel like the actress we got at Endgame could have been great. Um, I and then this is where I'll get into my big negative. When we introduced her in the movie, I knew there and I hated that they made her be a scientist, and they did the worst thing that every MCU film did, is that you jump into a character that we have not seen in so many years, right? And their
Hmm.
character progression at all. And then it's like, oh, all of a sudden she's a super genius, she's a scientist or
Hmm.
and she has suit, she has everything, and it's like, you know, like in comparison to Ironheart and Wakanda Forever, like
Hmm.
Riri Williams, like okay, we guess she's a smart person, but like there was like it was a relatability to her character. Like she's a young black woman who's trying to make something out of the world with her her scientific genius, right? And
Hmm.
then and helping out Wakanda and all that, and her relationship with Shuri, like she helps Shuri go through this character arc that where she realized what she's doing is wrong when she's finding Namor, right? And and like of course the little bits of her like talking about her father in the car, like I like that. And then here, like the way she like the things with the Scott um casting thing is on point, but then it's just some points we never like the conflict between the father daughter thing is just never um explored enough after they go into the quantum realm, and that's my biggest issue this with this casting. And I just didn't think it was a well presented new character of this young Avengers character we got, because we got Travis and we got the other characters we introduced, but I'm not gonna name them that right now. But yeah, I was very disappointed with what they did with Cassie. I just think, uh, they needed more ground to develop, and just maybe another movie in between. But I don't know. But what's your opinion on Cassie? I just don't think I'm just not invested with this character at all, really. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I liked her.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought the scientist thing made sense because she would have been around Hank and Janet so much,
But
and they
they
would have
were
rubbed off on her.
I I guess so, but I have a tough time swallowing that because she got smart during the 5 years. Like,
No, I think she got. Well, like
oh,
I think a
I
lot of that happened
okay,
after Endgame.
okay.
Um,
Um, yeah, I
I don't know. I guess I don't know how much time passed between Endgame and this movie.
yeah,
They must have said, but it seemed like all of the characters did a lot in that time.
yeah. I s- in terms of MCU timeline, it's been like maybe 2 years or three because it's 2025 when that when we did the time jump, right?
Hmm.
Oh, I can't remember now what the timeline is, but like it was around 2025 where Endgame happened, and then right now, or 2023. I'm sorry, 2023 is when Avengers Endgame is set, and then right now we're in around 2024 or 2025 with Phase Four. So this has to be either like in between 2025 before we get into the next year, the New Year's of 2026 for in this movie franchise. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's really bizarre with this timelines. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, I can see why you like the character. I don't know. There. Yeah, I think it's also just like missed opportunities for this movie. Like
Hmm.
I think because we've been used to with the first two movies with the father daughter relation, it's been very nice, and then it was kind of interesting to see if there's going to be conflict in the movie because it's how Cassie wants to help out in the world, like she's an activist, right? And
Hmm.
then Scott is not doing nothing, and I think that was like an intriguing development to do in this movie, but then they didn't spend time in it after we go into Quantum Realm. And like
Right.
they briefly Brent mention it up here and there, but it doesn't mean they develop it well,
Hmm.
you know. So that's my thing. And then, is there anything to say about Cassie? Because I want to get into Hope, because this is gonna get good time to bring up Hope here. Um, anything else to say about Cassie? If you
No, we can get into Hope.
Yeah, because like in terms of Miss Opportunity, we got Hope here, who is completely sidelined in this movie. Now, I'm I I don't think it was a big deal. I think her character was actually used pretty well in this movie. I just think like we did everything we did for this character for the first two movies. So I think what they did here was fine. It wasn't like Valkyrie where we didn't do nothing with that character, and like she was
Hmm.
like completely sidelined in the finale. Here, Hope was here in full force, and she had great action scenes. I like the costume more than the second one, so I can give that. Um, and and then it was funny. I don't know you've been attention to the comments, but like it was funny when the trailers were coming out. Like her hair got short, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh my god, they did it again!" And it's like, I get the short hair is from the comics, but it's like, really,
Yeah,
why?
it's never looked good on.
Yeah, this is the worst haircut, by the way.
Hmm.
Like, I like her haircut in the first movie. It's like, why can't we be consistent? Anyway, it's just a weird thing. And I didn't mind her long hair in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but like, um, but yeah, like, I, like she was a sideline, like she was in all the action, but like it was weird, like no character development. Like, and this the thing. I think the big issue with this movie because I get the ambitions, but you're trying to be this ambitious, like, oh my god, world changing, like emotional roller coaster film, right?
Hmm.
But you completely suck out the emotional stakes completely.
Yep.
Like, I feel like if I could have been satisfied if we just kill off Hank or Janet in this movie. Like, I don't know, I don't understand why we have everyone alive at this point. I mean, I just and then and as the ending again, going back to the ending, I feel like the ending made sense, but then they just like didn't. I don't want to say they chickened out. I think they had this other alternate ending that made sense to like confirm the future of Phase 5 and 6 with Kane, but like
Hmm.
I don't think it was well developed. You know,
Hmm.
you know, and I feel like that's one of like a lot of the emotions that we go with these characters are like very hollow for me, and that's just sad. And I think that's where people were having a problem. It's like, it, like at least No Way Home and Shang-Chi and Wakanda Forever, you felt the stakes were real and they were
Hmm.
personal, and
Yeah.
then here it isn't, and that's the issue I think everyone has, and what I have right now, just reviewing this movie. So, so to speak. Uh, your opinions on Hope? I mean, she's there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that was another one of my cons was that like she did not really have anything to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And people been joking, like, why do we have a title Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yeah, right. Like her name is in the title of the movie, and she's barely in like at least like Janet is also the Wasp, and she had a
Yeah,
lot more
yeah,
to do, which was something that I appreciated about this movie since she had
yes,
been sidelined before.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, no, it is weird that the character that like everyone knows in these movies, at least as the Wasp,
yeah,
was barely in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I don't know. I, I, I mean, like, at least they didn't do nothing dirty to the character. Like, at least,
right.
like, she wasn't Rose from Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker or Valkyrie, Thor: Love and Thunder. Like she was there, like she had great scenes with her family. Like thank goodness this movie like separate Scott and Hope like into two sections, and I think that's the one thing I will say that they did the smart thing of separating them. But I think that was the downside. It's like I care more about the Scott portion than the Penn ones. Despite I love Michelle Pfeiffer's Janet. But
Mhm.
but yeah. So let's get into our other was like I was just completely shocked. Like the reason I'm not negative about this movie is because I love Michelle Pfeiffer. She's one of my favorite actresses. I mean, look, I'm a Batman fan. I mean, every Batman fan and everyone in the world loves Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. So
Mhm.
it was like a big deal that she came back to the superhero game, and of course, I think we discussed in our Ant-Man and Wasp podcast a long time ago. it was kind of weird and disappointing that she was barely in that movie. Despite she was like the main focal point
Hmm.
for our characters to to do the mission, right? I was so happy they did more things with Janet here. Like I think Michelle Pfeiffer and Jonathan Majors were the two MVPs of this movie, and it's great. Um, and great chemistry. Like I was shocked. Like the scenes we see Kane and Janet alone, and then there's them
Hmm.
talking is so amazing. It's like I want a movie with just those two, and that's it. It's
Yeah,
like, oh my god,
yeah.
and yes, I get some of it is weird, like why she didn't mention Kane or anything what she did the 30 years of her living the quantum realm to her family. Like I feel like we need a scene that she like we needed a scene for her to talk to these people, but we didn't get that scene, and unfortunately, it is glaring, and it was always going to be glaring because it was going to be a huge retcon and all that,
Yeah.
you know. But I just feel like I will forgive that because I think Michelle Pfeiffer really owned that, and she made me
Hmm.
believe what was going on, and like I think if it wasn't if it wasn't Michelle Pfeiffer or any actress I knew, I think it could have fell flat and like we couldn't complain more. But I think because Michelle Pfeiffer did such an amazing job of like making me believe this person actually been in this alternate dimension for so many years and that she's scared of this one person can literally know about timelines and multiverse and all that is
Hmm.
just so convincing than what I've seen so far in any medium. And I think Michelle Pfeiffer pulls that off. And I think all that's forgiven because I think Michelle Pfeiffer really pulls that performance and just like throws me into this whole Kang character in the MCU so far.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
she did a really good job.
yeah, what do you think about Michelle Pfeiffer here? I mean, I just love the character. I love her so much in this movie.
Yeah, I know. I think she was another highlight. And I mean, I love like
J-
old school Ant-Man. I love
mm-hmm.
Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. So
Yep. Yep.
yeah, having her as like a focal point for an Ant-Man movie
Yeah.
was fantastic. And yeah, like you said, Michelle Pfeiffer's performance was really good. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I maybe that's why I like this movie when so many people don't. Is because it's like giving me all the Ant-Man stuff I want.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it gave me my Ant-Man stuff I wanted. The
mhm.
Hank and Janet
Yeah,
things,
oh, it was so
So
nice to just see them like together and not like uh,
yeah,
yeah,
like a bigger like I was surprised they were like Hank understood the situation, and then like Janet also was reasonable. Like it was like a
yeah,
healthy.
a
It,
healthy like long marriage. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, I loved
and
it.
yeah, exactly, and like
Especially since their marriage doesn't usually last that long or stay that healthy. So
yeah, yeah. Oh
this is
my
very
god,
nice.
yeah, and oh my god, I he was silent, but like oh my god, I love Michael Douglas as Hank Pym.
He did a really good job too. Yeah.
Oh my god! And you're speaking of the ant things. Like
Hmm.
I was shocked that this movie, like
Man, I was so happy with all of the ant stuff.
yes, and
Uh,
they were like the ant. Like sorry for the pun, the ant ex machina,
uh-huh.
the thing for the movie, and like they did totally sold it for me, and it's just so funny, and I was
Hmm.
so happy that they paid it off so well.
Yeah.
Um, Oh my god, and and Hank's reaction of like steering the was it the spaceship was
Hmm.
so funny, and oh god, yeah, Michael Douglas was great in this movie. He had the most funny lines in this movie and the scenes.
Hmm.
Oh god, yeah, yeah,
I really loved um, when Kang was like talking to Scott on like the one like bridge. And he was like,
Yes, and he was quoting
he
one
was
of
like,
the
I am a
lines.
conqueror. You talk to ants.
Dude.
Like, I loved how like it really did feel like they were like helpless to stop him, but
Yeah.
then they did like I don't know. It felt like a natural like I don't know. It didn't feel forced that they won because like the good guy has to win. It I don't know.
No, no,
It
no.
worked like I don't know. The plot worked for me.
Yeah, no, no, I didn't have a problem with that. It was more like I think that problem just more rose when Kane faced Scotland. Like that was more a problem there, but I don't think the ants like in
Yeah,
that
I mean
bridge. It made more
his
sense there.
suit had been damaged,
Yeah,
so he
exactly.
didn't have all his powers when he was fighting Scott alone. But
Yeah. And it was funny because I didn't think about this, but like, out of all our heroes, Scott knows how to use his admin suit, but he's not like professionally like trained like Batman, like in terms of
yeah,
fighting
he's not a
skills.
fighter.
Yeah.
He just he fought in prison a little bit. I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was the explanation from the first Ant-Man movie.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he
Uh,
just knows how to punch.
he just that's just a punch, and then his training session with Hope, like, oh, this is
Hmm
how you punch a person, and then she just knuckle slam him to the face. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my god, um, yeah, the bridge was great. I was so giddy to see the ants, and like
hmm
I knew when they got sucked into the quantum, and then the what was it like the
Yeah,
ant
he
smart
kept
ants.
hearing it over the
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh my god, it was funny, and they built society. I
Yeah.
was like laughing so hard
It
for that.
was a nice there was an episode of Earth's Mightiest Heroes
Hmm.
where I think they were fighting Kang. Um and Hank gets like sent to the future. And the
Oh,
world has been like decimated or
yeah.
they're just like completely destroyed. And then everyone's like fighting Kang in the ruins of New York City, and Ant-Man's like nowhere to be found. And then like Kang's like beating everyone, and then all of a sudden Hank just shows up riding like a wave of cockroaches because they survived everything. It
Oh
kind of
my.
reminded me of that,
Yes,
which
it
was
did.
very fun.
Oh my god, I did remember that. Oh my god, that was so like yeah, it just shows how like efficient and also powerful Ant-Man is.
Right, like
You
everyone
know?
underestimates him.
Yeah,
Um,
and still people complain. It's like,
yeah,
do you understand that Ant-Man's like the most powerful
he's so
person?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It was just knowing. No, no, no. I mean, and also the ants that we have here. They're no. I mentioned they're smart ants. Like
hmm
like they have weapons in their heads and like I mean
yeah,
like they were not normal ants at all. You know.
right. That was a lot of fun.
Hmm. Speaking of the battle,
Hmm
one thing before we get into like Jonathan Majors and Kane and all that, the rebels. Um, this is one thing I do agree with critics. I don't think we need the rebels in this movie.
I agree.
Like, yeah, like that's where I feel like okay, this is like Star Wars for me.
Hmm
Like, and uh, I first off, they completely wasted
William
William.
Jackson Harper.
Yeah,
Yeah. hmm
in this role,
Yeah. You
and
got like an up and coming star, and then you put him in a throwaway role in an Ant-Man movie.
yeah,
That's a mistake.
yeah, and the whole internet like has been hoping and then speculating that he could be like the Reed Richards or like the essence of Reed Richards in one of these MCU projects for Kane or Fantastic Four. And like I was just shocked that they I mean, but then I don't know, like what he needs. Like do he needs like get out too or or like this big I don't know, like s- centric movie. I don't know. It was just weird. Like The Good Place, everyone loves The Good Place. I
Mhm.
heard it and I don't know. It's weird.
It's very
It's,
good.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, he was in Midsummer too. Like he was with Florence Pugh. Like I forgot he's in that movie and he was great in there. Like
mhm.
I don't know. And then the lady, the fighter, um, Rabel, like it was weird. Like I like her character, but then they did this weird thing where they gave the freedom fire speech to Cassie to do.
Yeah,
Excuse
that
me,
was weird.
and it just took away her this character's moment. And it's like, why you did that? That's I don't understand that. That was weird. And then
Mhm.
look, I appreciate they kept one of Ant-Man's crew, Dave. Who's the actor's name? Dave.
Uh,
Um,
I never know how to pronounce it.
yeah, the man who played Polka Dot Man and Abracadabra and the Flash, like he voiced one of the aliens, the like the gooey creature
Right.
that like gives this like the ooze so that the humans can drink so they can hear their voices because they were just hearing their alien language, which that was
Yeah.
cool. They did, but
Mhm.
uh but yeah, it was weird. Why do we have him here? Like, I get, like, I like Michael Pan. Like, I wish Michael Pan was here, but so, but yeah. So, yeah. I just overall, I don't think the rebels should be not be in this movie. I just felt like they were just taking up too much time. Of certain things should be more developed in
Mhm.
the story. Um, and also, like, I just wish we had other characters. Like, I think the one thing I will say that was just kind of sad was this movie. Like, despite it was much like an Ant Man franchise, I do miss certain things I like about the Ant Man films. Like I really wish we were in San Francisco. Like, I wish we had Chewie Career in this movie.
Mhm.
Um, and of course Michael Payne as Luis. Like, I
Mhm.
wish he was here.
Yeah, all the Ant-Man like side characters were um really fun and like really popular too. So it was weird to
Yeah,
not have them at least like bookend the movie, like
yeah.
have them in the
Like,
beginning and the end.
yeah, like I like Luis. Like, I wanted him to do a recap in this movie. It's like, come
Hmm.
on. It's like, ah, it's just so, yeah. And that's the thing. It doesn't like it feels like an movie, but it just feels like a half like portion of it. You know?
Yeah, it was like it felt like a crossover between like Ant-Man and whatever King is gonna be. It
Yeah,
felt like a weird like in between.
yeah, and it was just weird. And then it's like, why you had Jamie Rue here? Adrian Wu, just for one cameo. Like, I
That
was
was
like,
fun though. I liked that they actually got dinner.
uh,
Call back to the joke from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
oh, I knew that was so. Okay, I
Yeah,
remember now. Yeah, yeah. Oh my god. It could have been funner that they were just doing magic tricks. Like they were like
yeah,
he was
they're
teaching
both into magic.
the magic now. That could have made that seem much better. But anyway,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Will. Thank you for being a fan of Ant-Man because I totally forgot the gag. Bro, was like, "Come on, are you inviting me to dinner?" That was my favorite line from that movie.
It was a good joke. It was a good
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It's, oh my god, this movie. It's oh my god, so like okay, let's get into the one and only Kang the Conqueror, Jonathan Majors.
Hmm.
Uh I mean first thing they did right compared to maybe some of the other Phase 4 movies. Or just like Thor Love and Thunder. I thought this was going to be strong. Like we have the first opening to show us the villain.
Hmm.
When they did that, when we saw Kane for the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, I'm stoked for this, and I think they did such a good job. I think Kane was the best part of this movie. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
obviously, um, everything about him was so great. I mean, his costume was amazing. One of
Hmm.
the best comic book accurate supervillains I've seen
Hmm.
since Mysterio. Um, and then Jonathan Majors, man, he's growing to be the most just acclaimed, talented actor ever. Um, like it's funny that he's gonna be in Creed 3 this Friday.
Yep.
Um, oh my god, and it just shows he's growing as actor, and like, I mean, this is probably the best villain performance ever since, oh my god, like since Wan Wu, or like since, I mean, since Thanos. Like just how he gets angry, it's like
Yeah.
so
I
chilling.
mean, I really liked Christian Bale's performance as Gore.
Hmm.
I don't, yeah, like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have gotten good villains recently, even if it
yeah,
was in a bad movie.
yeah.
But
Um,
but yeah, no, Jonathan Majors is something else. He's so
yeah,
good.
yeah. I was very concerned like how Kane will be, because they were hyping up his performance. I was like, okay, like because we saw him in Loki, and
Hmm.
I like what he did in Loki there. So like how different this King, the King Conqueror we're gonna get, compared to who he remains, right?
Hmm.
And no, this was completely different character of Kane, a different variant. I was so
Hmm.
happy when he say his like my other variants. I was like, yes, they finally say
Yeah,
variant in this.
they're using the language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, thank goodness. And then the timeline, like was it the branches of the
Hmm.
timeline that we saw
Hmm.
towards the end of Loki? Like we saw it again twice, of course, in the
Hmm.
post credit scene. Oh my god, and just I thought, yeah, they did it. They just nailed it right, and I think the writing was good in this character. Like he had great lines,
Hmm.
and but one thing I did not like what they did was the trailers. I thought the reason Scott was going to help Kane to get his multiverse device that will get him out of the quantum realm,
Hmm.
because he was going to give Scott time to like get back to spend with his daughter, right? And they didn't do that in this movie. Like they,
Mm.
it was just, oh, if you're not gonna do this, I'm gonna kill your daughter. And I was like, I like, okay, it makes a lot of sense, but why you didn't go for the time thing? That made more sense and compelling.
Hmm.
Like that was the one thing I was like, from the trailers, I was so gutted they didn't have that in this movie, because they made so much sense.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm saying the stakes and
Hmm.
personal um, hit for Ant-Man just wasn't there, because they got the one that makes the most sense and compelling, and they didn't have this movie, and just that was like, oh, annoying.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really watch the trailers that much, so I
Oh,
didn't go in with that expectation.
yeah, it was like in the first trailer.
Yeah, it sounds
Yes,
familiar now that you've said it, but I watched the first trailer once and that was it.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, you're a lucky man. I mean, I don't like do trailer reactions. I just watch the trailers in my own time. And it's like,
hmm.
oh, this is cool, and and you see the movie, it's like, oh, okay. So they didn't have it. But yeah, so yeah, they didn't have that, and I'm trying to think out what else they didn't have in the trailer. I think that was really it, because everything we saw from the trailer was like in the movie, like a lot of the shots.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah. Well, the one thing people were concerned about was the volume they were going to use. So we can get into
Mm.
the special effects here. Um, I think this movie feels more polished than the other Phase 4 projects, especially Thor and Love and Thunder. I think the good thing is Peyton Reed. Peyton Reed did the Mandalorian twice, and he
Mm.
already knew the experience of the volume.
I mean, Taika Waititi had worked on The Mandalorian too, though.
Yeah, but I don't know, like he took his movie seriously, so I
Well,
will.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I I feel like Henry was actually making a movie,
Hmm.
and the situation with the effects here was just the color pairing, the color palette was just where was just mesh. Like it
Yeah,
should have been. What do you think? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I agree about the color palette. There were also some shots especially in the first half of the movie, where it just like felt it. I know it wasn't green screen because they were in the volume, but I could tell that it was like an actor in front of a screen,
Yeah,
and it like to the
yeah,
point where it would take me out of the movie.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, and like by the second half, I was like engrossed in the story, and I wasn't really thinking about it that much, so it didn't really happen.
yeah. Mhm.
Uh, like especially by the time we're getting to like the final battle in the Citadel. But
Yeah. Well, and the good news, like, what was it? The good news about the Star Wars comparison, like, they actually at least make the environments like be like, what's the word? Distinctly different from the
hmm
scenes from our characters are at.
hmm
Like Scott and Lane were from like they were like in more like Tatooine kind of lands, like rocks, and then where Hope and Hank and Jan were like either flying in like the air, and then in the floors it was like they were in like cities and like deserts.
hmm
So like you knew where you were at with these locations, where compared to like Thor and Thunder, like you knew you were in a set, and then like in the planets they were in, like you didn't feel like they were in location like this movie
hmm
was.
hmm
Um, but I mean, you could tell there were volumes, but it wasn't as like noticeable like Love and Thunder for me. And like the really bad part was when Scott Lang was with the Rebels, because the lighting there was so dark. I couldn't
Yes.
like that was where the issue I had with that was like, okay, like I get you're trying to hide the CGI, but that's not how you do it. Like you need to hide the CGI in darkness, but you need to have lighting at the same time to like to contrast the shadows of your body, and like
hmm
there's just a lot to do.
Yeah.
Um, and unfortunately, we all know last year the VX companies are just are being overdone, and or not, what I was saying, like they're being overworked, and
hmm
they're just not given time to do this,
Yeah.
give time to polish the effects and all that.
Yeah.
Um, but
Uh,
yeah,
yeah. This is also the first blockbuster since everyone's seen Avatar 2.
yeah. Oh my
So
god,
everyone
I
knows what good CGI looks like.
yeah.
And then this came out.
I was gonna bring up Avatar 2, but I didn't know you've seen the sequel.
Yeah.
Oh, you seen the sequel?
Yeah. No, I
Oh,
loved it.
oh, okay, okay. Well, yeah. Did we discuss Avatar 2 together?
Uh,
Just like
we did.
just
We can. Well, maybe we could do that like for the next discussion. We could talk about Avatar.
okay, we can do that. All right, that's awesome. Anyway, like I mean, yeah, like comparison to Avatar 2, like I mean, come on, it's James Cameron. He's gonna spend so much money to make everything polished. Like
Yeah,
I
and
like,
he's gonna take the time to make sure it's polished.
mm-hmm,
Whereas
yes,
like Marvel just rushes movies out.
yeah, which is concerning. Uh,
Yeah.
but at least this week, I mean, Karen Foggy has brought up that it was going to be, they're slowing down the production and pulling down projects. I heard that this year we're probably going to get just two Disney Plus shows.
hmm
So Secret Invasion and Loki season 2 is going to come out this year, and
Right.
then next year, 2024, is just going to be Ironheart and Providence of Chaos, and then I'm forgetting the
I
third
think they
one.
already. I think they've started filming Echo.
Yeah, Echo is going to come out that year, so not this year, 2023. So, but we'll see. But they will. I mean, when we get to Comic Con this year, they will confirm all this. But whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. So, I guess we're ready to do the post credit scenes. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to figure out what else we have to discuss. I think we covered everything. For the most part.
Mhm.
But I'll after the post credit scene, I'll maybe discuss the ending. I guess to I mean have our opinions if we like it or not. But anyway, so we have two plus credit scenes here. I think the best since um I guess since Black Panther and Shang-Chi, Legend of Ten Rings. But okay. Uh, so the the first post credit scene, we got the cancel of Kangs.
Hmm.
I was not expecting that. I thought that was a big leap, but they did. And then the second post credit scene, we have Loki. I was so happy the Loki came back. I was like, oh my god, Tom Wilson's back. And then
Hmm.
Morbius. I was like, oh my god, Owen Wilson in the post credit scene. Oh my god. Yeah, I like the second one, the Loki one, because just I mean Tom Wilson, terrific actor. Loki forever. His eyes just tell everything about that scene. Like he was
Hmm.
afraid of King, and I thought he did such a good job of conveying this fear of this
Hmm.
one person now we have seen throughout the movie. It's
Hmm.
like it makes me more excited for season 2 now.
Yeah.
Um, and then the first post credit scene was kind of neat, but I felt very like it was just too much, like too much noise in that first post credit scene with all the
Hmm.
canes screaming. But like it was a comic accurate panel, and I get that.
Oh yeah.
But you know, but yeah, what's your opinion on these post credit scenes? Well, like, do you like the first one or you like the second? Go ahead.
Uh, I think I like the second one a lot
Okay.
more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it got me excited for Loki
Two.
season 2.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, the first one, I don't
Yeah.
know. Again, like the CGI felt kind of rushed with all
Yeah.
the Kangs appearing, and then there's some weird decisions on just like having the Kangs screaming. I felt like a weird choice after the like very calm character that we've seen in other appearances.
Yeah. It
Um,
was. I. I was kind of good because I was like because I was it was just trying to see not to see King in his comic book accurate suit and then him wearing like 'cause when you were seeing the canes like popping up in the floor like the I don't know the ground
mhm,
with their normal clothes or whatever they were coming from was like jarring. And then when you pan up to the canes that were there with the comic book classic suit,
mhm,
and it was like, oh, okay, okay, this was fine. It was just way too much in that scene. I was like, I get
yeah.
it, I get it. There's so many of these canes. Um, but I'm very curious to see like who's gonna like is Ramatot like the Kane variant there gonna be the main bad for the Avengers movies? Um, and then like the one that was like silver, what was the silver century?
Centurion. Hold on, let
Yeah,
me.
yeah, because they gave him like a complete redesign, and I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh. Then the third one, I'm blanking right now. I think he was Anolan or something like that.
Um,
So
I can't remember. There
uh,
was three that I had recognized from like other Kang appearances,
yeah,
but
I
um,
yeah. Oh my god. And it's also their names. It's like, oh my god, now I have to
yeah,
name them differently.
Immortus, Ramatot,
Yes.
and
Remember.
Centurion.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Ramata I knew. Oh, and
Yeah,
speaking of the other variant in the second Pokemon scene, that was Victor Timely.
timely. Hmm.
Yeah. So he's gonna be maybe the one we're gonna see in season 2.
Right. I think he's like the first one, right?
He I
Like
think so.
Kang, like the first Kang that invents
Uh
time travel or multiverse travel.
yes, he's like the descendant of scientists. Yep. So I
Yeah.
think he's the first major one. But yeah. Uh, yeah, I thought, again, showing Jonathan Major's talent, in all those two post-credit scenes, and
Hmm.
yeah, very excited for that. I guess, um, let me let me ask you questions because are we gonna connect him to Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four? Like, because
Maybe.
right, because I'm I'm wondering if we're gonna do it, because the fact we didn't, cast William, the other
Uh,
rebellion,
Jackson Harper.
yeah, Jackson Harper, right? And it's like, okay, you're not gonna do that, then I guess you're gonna put Majors here. And then the one criticism I do have is I don't like we're inconsistent about the variants. It's like, okay, why we have majors playing all this, but then you're telling me in the other movies when we dealt with multiverse, it's like Spider-Man looks different there with Andrew
Hmm.
and Toby, and then multiverse Amanda's. It's like we got Benedict Cumberbatch playing his Strange. It's like, oh my god, it's driving me nuts with this
Yeah, it
multiverse.
is. It is inconsistent, but
Yeah, I guess
it's
I need consistentness. Just it throws me out sometimes.
okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. But yeah, yeah, it was supposed to, and then like I don't know, like where we left Ant Man's, like what are we gonna do with him in the Adventures movies? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
it's like, but yeah. Just to wrap things up, I think overall, I think this movie was fun. Is it a great start in Phase 5? I mean, yes and no. I mean, that's my answer. I I think this was a good start because I think it helps to get into your villain. Like one thing this movie did for me that I wish we got for Thanos in the Faces is have him have his own film and like had time with this character.
Hmm.
This that was something I will appreciate this movie the most. Like this movie will age better because we got time to spend with Kane and like it. These phases will be much better compared to phase excuse me, phase 1 to 3 because we
Hmm.
never spent time with Thanos. Like when we got to Infinity War, it was like he was such a completely different character from the
Hmm.
one in the post credit scene in the first Avengers movie.
Right.
So I at least liked this more. And Marvel is doing a good job of investing on this character and doing the proper thing for this character.
Yeah, they're building him up.
Yeah, exactly. And thank goodness because I'm excited because it was always annoying that we could never put Thanos in one project to just know him better,
Hmm.
instead of just being a cameo, you know.
Hmm.
So I at least appreciate about this movie, but I do not appreciate this movie is I agree with one person that say that this feels like the same Phase 4 project, like like it's better than the other Phase 4 projects. But what I mean by that, it suffers the same fate that some of the projects of Phase 4s have, the ones that doesn't work. Like it's over stuff. This is the longest Ant-Man movie. Like it
Hmm.
clocks in 2 hours, but it doesn't do enough to develop its premise and character development at all during this time. Like it needed more hour, like extra 15 minutes to do that, right?
Hmm.
And just like it just sidelines and just undercut some of your characters you like so many years, and it's like very like it didn't do it dirty like certain first four films did.
Hmm.
I think it's just this was struggling because it had too many things at once, and I think we should like I will give it a break compared to the other Phase 4 projects. But it was handled better. I think it was handled better. I think Peyton Reed did such a good job of combining this whole thing, and I hope he directs a Star Wars movie. Honestly, like why we're getting these top writers, these name directors, and it's like just pick the ones you worked before. Like just pick Penn and Reed or whoever worked on those shows. Like get them to direct a Star Wars movie. I think Penn and Reed has potential to be a good Star Wars director. You know?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like what he did with these three Ant-Man films, and he's a good director. He knows how to direct his actors, and he's better at doing the special effects. You know.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, yeah. Anything else to say? Well, I think it's a good time to close out our podcast.
Yeah, I think I've said most of what I wanted to say.
Yeah, me too. Which is great. I'm so happy we're in the beginning of Phase 5. Hopefully we don't get too much stuff. Oh my god, I think our next one is going to be either Secret Invasion or Falling or Guardians Falling 3. So, but we'll see.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, so thank you everyone for listening to this podcast. Me and Will be back again for another spectacular podcast. Yeah, yeah. Can't believe it. We're gonna be in March soon. So, but yeah, thank you everyone. I hope you guys had a great, you know, well, great start for this week.